Hello everybody, it's Roku back with some more League of Legends content, and today we're going to talk about the 5 most broken champions in the preseason right now. A lot of these champions, or I guess all of them in this case, were already pretty powerful before, in Season 11, but with the changes that Riot has implemented into the game, the things they've added, lethal tempo, these champions have gone from strong to being like god-like powerful, and I'm gonna bring up some of them that are obvious and some of them that are like kind of sleeper OP to really let you guys know what champions are free low in the preseason. Now, why am I making this video? Darius sucks right now. Darius has been in one of the worst spots he's ever been in a while. The W buffs, lethal tempo, it's just not enough, man. It's like the state of the game right now is very anti-Darius right now. He exists in a state where he has to win lane to be impactful. And if he doesn't win lane, he's just, worthless. He just loses. The issue he runs into is that a lot of the people who take a lethal tempo abuse it better than he does. He can't roam like them, he can't fight like them, and he's just basically stuck in this really bad spot where you can only pick him into the right compositions and then he'll just kill everything, but he's too situational right now to be made, so you can't one-trick him anymore. You need to bring more champions into your champion pool. Now, what are these champions? Before I get into that, go to rhokucoaching.com for top quality coaching. Use the discount code Christmas2022 for 20% off. Alright, enough of this. Okay, so the first champion I'm going to talk about is Camille, okay? Now, Camille has been broken for all of Season 11. Like, she's just way too powerful. And, like, there's actually not a single universe where Camille has any modicum of, like, balance, okay? There's no argument anybody can make that she's balanced, because even the best Camille players, like Drut, etc., all agree that she is super overpowered, and it's basically just free low. Now, admittedly, Riot has implemented nerfs to her, right? They added a useless, cooldown extension on her E, and they added a decent, like, nerf of nerfing her W damage and healing, but unfortunately, these things are not enough to really shut Camille down. Camille is so powerful because, one, Divine Sunder synergizes with her so incredibly well that it basically makes her, like, unstoppable in a 1v1 scenario once she builds it, okay? So once she gets that item, and it does 2 damage with her Q, by the way, the Divine Sunder procs, she can basically beat most champions. Like, somebody picks Camille, and you have to be like 2-3 items above her just to beat her in the 1v1, okay? Now, to get to that state, theoretically, it should be like the difficult part, she has to win lane, and it's difficult. That should be like the weakness of this champion, but there's Ignite Teleport, which she abuses very well. There's Grasp, which she's like one of the biggest abusers of, and her W and her shield allow her to take a lot of great trades and actually have the move speed to just kite melee champions out. She is insanely overpowered, and she scales like super hard once she gets Divine Sunder, because not only she can just beat most of the top laners, she can just outroam them. So any fight that's happening at top side, she'll be in it, okay? In terms of the ideal elo she's in, I'd say her overpoweredness really comes into play in Platinum and above. So if you're Platinum and like higher, picking up Camille is definitely like an instant buff, like boost to your champion pool, because she's just that powerful, okay? And the nerfs are basically just placebo at this point. They're just going to make her a bit weaker, but not really that much at all. She's going to be just as strong as before. In terms of difficulty to play, though, I would say she's like, on a scale from 1 to 5, I'd say she lands at a 2. Mainly because, like, normally, like way before, when Camille was balanced, you need to be like a 3 or a 4 to be really good at laning with her. But ever since, the Camille can just abuse so many runes and summoners that can just get her through laning phase, you don't need to have very deep knowledge on her. So, like, I would say her difficulty in playing or abusing to get elo has dropped down from a 3.5-ish to a 2, from a scale of 1 to 5. So, yeah, her ideal elo is Platinum and above. Her difficulty is 2 out of 5. Anyway, next champion. Now, this one's a bit of a sleeper pick right now. Nobody's noticing it, but Jax. Jax is a monster with the new lethal tempo, and I would say he's one of the best abusers of it. His passive and lethal tempo kind of work with each other, so the attack speed he gets per auto is basically just so much that like Jax is practically unbeatable in like any long fight. Okay, not to mention how Jax doesn't have to go any attack speed, and he can still have like 2.5 attack speed or even more. Okay, Jax is loving lethal tempo, and like he is arguably like the best abuser of it so far, because like there are champions that are overpowered already and just get even stronger when they get lethal tempo, but Jax, like, the jump in power from where he was to where he is now is actually so dramatic and insane that he has to be on this list. Okay, Riot nerfed lethal tempo, but they didn't nerf it enough. Like, Riot hates to backpedal on things. Okay, they hate to remove the changes they made because they hate admitting that they're wrong. So the nerf that they did to lethal tempo, where they just take away the attack speed a bit, is useless. You know, that nerf's not going to do anything. So we're basically in a state where they're going to keep lethal tempo the way it is for the rest of preseason. So Jax is going to remain overpowered for the rest of preseason. In terms of the ideal elo that I would say he gets good at, in my opinion, like high gold and above-ish. The thing about super low elo is that players kind of lack the macro needed to split push and stuff, and kind of like, you know, they're not very good with micro movements, which is where the skill of Jax comes in, and also knowing what type of fights you can win with them, right? This basically puts Jax in a position where like a lot of lower elo players who can't really grasp his mechanics kind of mess up with him, right? So I would say his like, you know, ideal rank is gold and higher, and by higher I mean like all the way to challenger. And in terms of difficulty to play, to pick up, to master, in the scale from 1 to 10, I would say he's like a 2.5-ish. He's not the most difficult champion in the world, but there is some nuance to his gameplay, and you do have to know like how to play some matchups well. But the thing with Jax is that once you get past laning phase and know how to just consistently kill people in lane with lethal tempo, you will turn into a straight up beast. Because Jax is one of those top laner champions that can straight up just 1v9 games off of getting fed. Up next, we have another hidden pick, Dr. Mundo. Now, I've actually played a bit of Mundo every time Darius gets banned or something, and it is super, super fun, because Mundo is super, super, super dumb. Now, jokes aside, and the humor of the champion aside, Mundo is seriously a very overpowered pick right now, because, like, he cannot be stopped from scaling, okay? Mundo is not like a super late game, you know, 1v9 carry champion. He's just a tank that does a ton of damage who cannot be very easily peeled, okay? Now, when a tank for a tank to get to this state, they have to like win lane or whatever, but Mundo doesn't have to do this. Mundo can just sit like at his turret, throw hatchets to farm, and just be safe, you know? And still scale to the point where he's just a monster, okay? He can also make use of the Anathema's Rush first item to win 1v1s if he really wants to, and if that's required for the lane, or you can just, you know, keep playing safe and keep scaling. And the best part about him is that he is possibly like one of the easiest top laners to pick up right now. I only played like the reworked Mundo a few times after his rework, okay? Just to see what the champion like could do. I even made a video on him. But right now, like in my current state right now, I have less than like 3 games on Mundo, right? But he's basically my second pick if Darius gets banned, because I just pick him and I can actually just dominate games with him. Because if you can be patient, not go melee range with minions, just throw hatches and just go in at the right time, go for kills here and there, he actually snowballs pretty hard outside of top lane. And he's the type of champion that even though he is immobile, he can kind of keep up very easily with his teammates and just support them at all times because of his hatchet. He's a very nice chasey champion that's great for disorganized games. Now, he does get kind of destroyed by some of these like super kitey comps where the enemy team has like a really good support player and a really good ADC, but generally speaking, he is just like a monstrously safe laner. His scaling cannot be stopped, and he is very, very easy to learn. His difficulty is a 1 from a scale of 1 to 5, and as for the ranks, he's good in, I would say, everywhere. There's no difficulty when playing Mundo. Up next, we have Yone. Yone's been low-key broken for like the entire season now. Actually, Yone's been broken for his entire existence, but it's kind of becoming more obvious to players that he's actually just straight up broken. So the thing with Yone is lethal tempo. But yeah, lethal tempo is another great like power up for Yone, because the thing that about lethal tempo that makes it super broken right now, or one of the many things, is that it can be procced by abilities. Okay, so there are abilities in the game like Yasuo Q, Yone Q, Irelia Q that are abilities, but they kind of count as auto attacks. Okay, so they're just basically autos, just, you know, they apply on-hit effects. I mean, I think that's the right term I was looking for. So attacks that apply on-hit effects give you stacks of lethal tempo. So Yone can proc lethal tempo very, very easily with his auto attacks and Qs. And because his Q cooldown reduces with attack speed, he can get, like, not only does his autos get faster, but his Qs get faster, which is really, really huge for him, because Yone is able to just, like, scrounge out these super close fights in top lane because of, like, just him Q spamming the enemy, okay? He is a bit tricky to get a hold of, and there are a lot of top lane champions that just straight up destroy him, right? A lot of these bruisers, if you misplay, they will just destroy you. But the thing about Yone is that if he gets to 2 items, he straight up outscales everyone. Yone has possibly the strongest 2-item power spike in the game, which is just shield bow and IE, and if you want, you can go for like the anti-heal one, the Mortal Reminder or something, instead of the IE, and you'll still spike super hard, you know? He has an insanely powerful 2-item power spike, and once he gets this, he can straight up just 1v9 fights. He has like an insane amount of survivability with his shields. He's one of the best abusers of shield bow. He has the mobility because of his E to go in, do damage, and get back to safety. He has insane amounts of CC with his ultimate and Q in an AoE, and he can use all the CC while fighting someone in a 1v1, which makes him quite difficult to beat in a side lane. Okay, Yone is an insanely powerful champion that, when mastered, is gonna give you, like, you know, a very solid boost for your champion pool. In terms of difficulty, I would say he's like a 3.5 out of 5, I would say. Like, obviously, he's not as difficult as Yasuo, okay? That's a common comparison, but he still has difficult parts of his kit, and also it's difficult to play him in top lane when everyone's just a monster, right? Like, in terms of like the effective elo though, interestingly enough, I think Yone is like powerful in all elos right now. I know that it's like, you know, a bit weird to hear that such a high, you know, hype complicated champion is good in low elo, but he's actually like kind of cheating. Like, it's kind of, okay, look, the general idea in low elo is that games draw on for way longer than they should, okay? So in high elo, if you're behind on a Yone as like a top laner, you can be boned and just not play the game, because if the enemy team, like, you know, just get the objectives, get the Baron, and end the game, then you're not going to have enough time to get your 2 items and, you know, just scale to the point where you're a monster. This is not the case in low elo. Low elo players don't know how or when to end games. They just let games go on for too long. And Yone's insanely powerful scaling allows for him to basically just survive through like bad lanes in low elo, because they're not going to end the game, are they? And the best part is, you're probably going to outscale the person who beat you. Like, low elo champions, like in low elo top laners, are basically champions like Set, Darius, Mordekaiser, things like this, like big, beefy juggernauts. And Yone can outscale all of them. He is very, very powerful, and he will outdo all of them in teamfights, given all of his items. So I'd say Yone works everywhere. Our last champion, but definitely not the least, and a champion that I'm actually a fan of, Tryndamere. Tryndamere is super annoying. Tryndamere is so AIDS, but he is a very, very powerful champion. Like, the thing with Tryndamere is that, like, he has all the tools he needs to lane well, even into bad lanes, and once he gets out of laning phase, he is the best split pusher in the game. Split pushing is mostly a dead strategy, because it's better to just run around the map like an animal and just constantly fight people, but not for Tryndamere, because Tryndamere is so powerful that he can probably just beat whoever they send to kill him. And that's if they can catch him. He's very difficult to catch. So unless he's facing someone who is like similarly high mobility like him, like a Camille or something, he's just going to get away. And if the Camille ults him, he just kills her, by the way, but still. He scales insanely hard because what's basically happening to the game is the game's getting faster and faster and faster. Damage is getting higher and higher and higher. And Tryndamere just 5 seconds of invulnerability with his ultimate is like, it used to be just, okay, 5 seconds, and now it feels like an hour, basically, you know? Tryndamere can get a lot done in those 5 seconds. He can just two-shot an ADC, he can kill 2 people under a turret, he can just be a monster, and he can slip away quite easily. If you have the macro for it, Tryndamere is a very, very fun, great, and annoyingly overpowered champion that you can add to your champion pool. In terms of ideal elos, I would say Tryndamere is effective from silver or gold onwards, honestly, not silver. Because to play Tryndamere well, you really need to have good macro, and you have to actually invest time into the champion, but you really need good macro most of all. Tryndamere's strength comes in being able to understand how champions move around the map, because this lets him not only just go for good split pushes, but lets him go for good flanks, okay? So it's like, if you have good wave control, or if you have good vision control, I mean, and you understand how champions move around the map, you can just go into the jungle and cut them up before they group, kill 2 of them, and end the team fight before they can even, like, you know, start it. Just, like, he's very good at scrapping with the enemy team in their base and getting away with it, okay? And once he gets to the point where he can just have, like, a 2-second cooldown on his E, he is basically, like, just a monster to deal with. And he's also one of the better scalers in the game. So yeah, in terms of difficulty to play, I would say he's a 2.5 out of 5 in terms of difficulty, but most of that difficulty is not actually with a champion, but with macro. So it's like, if you can get better at macro, then he drops down to like a 2 or something, you know, similar to with Camille, actually. Like, he's basically in this same-ish position as Camille, except, you know, Camille is a bit more broken in lane, but then she scales instantly when she gets divine, whereas Tryndamere needs to get a few more items and then he becomes a monster. Now, before you guys type your angry or confused comments, hear this part of the video out. I am not going to quit Darius ever. Darius is the entire reason why I play this game, so this video isn't me moving on from Darius. Just think of it as me expanding to other champions, you know? My goal with this channel is to make sure that I give actually good advice when it comes to solo queue. You know, there's a lot of bad advice, there's a lot of incomplete advice. It's just like, there's a lot of ways players can waste their time out there, and I don't want to be like that. I want to tell people how to climb as fast as possible, and right now, if you're one-tricking Darius, that is simply not possible. You need other champions in your champion pool so that you can pick them most of the time. And when you come across a game that Darius is really good for, or a lane you know you're going to win, then you can pick Darius and dominate that game. He works better as a part of a 2-champion champion pool, or like a 3-champion pool, but not as a one-trick. So here are the choices that you can pick if you want to really just crush the preseason and get really good before diving into Season 12. And by the way, you should be playing your rank games because the MMR from your rank carries over from preseason to Season 12. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.